Hi, good evening. This is the 5th of January 2023. And today's episode it's very simple. I'm going to do this in less than 10 minutes. It's going to be the shortest episode if possible on the year 2023. It's simply do not, and I repeat, do not live a life without standard. A life without standard is a mess of a life. And I'm going to actually explain this because I see so many people whom I know should be doing better. I'm not saying they're doing bad, they're doing good, but they should be doing better. They should be excelling, but they're not really excelling, or they're being taken for granted because they do not have a standard. Now, I walk into rooms nowadays and everybody gives me respect. I have people who don't perform well, people who are lazy, people who, and underperform, people whom other people had rejected and they felt they won't be anything. When those people come close to me, they stand up and everyone thinks I'm somebody who brings out the best in people. Maybe I do that, but the truth is I set a standard in my life that gets to affect that of every single person around me. And I want you to be somebody of standard as well. So before the end of this video, it's going to be a very short one. You're going to understand the key concept of standard and what it does to people around you and what it also does, to your life. It gives you a better life. And I'm going to start this video with showing you not something about me today, but something about someone else. I'm going to show you a video. Now, this guy was on the road. He had an umbrella and it was raining. The floor was wet and cars were passing. So he was just waiting for the cars maybe to pass and get to a hut so he can cross the road. Now, that was a social experiment. Why this guy was with his umbrella have a standard and he doesn't have a consequence? I think that should be the topic of the day. Have a standard and the consequences. Okay, right? Because a standard goes with a consequence. You cannot actually have standard, that wouldn't have things that would be done if certain things do not meet that standard. Right? I'll get back to that later. So now this guy had people splashing water on him, and after a while something happened. He set a consequence. Like, this is a consequence he doesn't even have to tell you, but many looking at the video, you now know the consequence. This time around he's with a brick, a stone. Now he has this stone in his hand and cars were still passing as they would be passing before, but this time around, as each person drives so close to him, they're seeing a brick on his hand. Now he's not telling them I'm going to hit you, but they somehow do one or two and they know that, nah, man, that I shouldn't really be that fast. I should slow down a bit. I could pour this guy water and this guy could stow me his brick out of annoyance. And now they get to know that if they mess with that guy, automatically there's a brick on his hand and that brick could be on their glass. Now you get to see how every single person takes a chill once they're getting close to him. Everybody's suddenly acting with common sense because now he has set a consequence and now nobody wants to splash water on him again. Now what happened to this guy was basically what happened to me. Years ago, I had no standard and consequence in my life. I used to be someone whom I was trying so hard not to offend people, and then because I was trying to please people, I had no standard. Now, it was only when I started making money, I started going to like big restaurants, big hotels, because I used to always feel the customer is always right? I had a mentality, trying to make people always feel comfortable, try to, I had no standard in my life, and there was nothing that I would do if you go against, my standards. And so when I started going to some restaurants, some hotels, I would discover that they will tell you this is their standard. Some clubs will tell you cannot put on pumps, you cannot do this, you cannot dress this way, or you do not do this here. When you misbehave, shout at the restaurant, they walk you out. But when you shout in Mama Put, nobody will walk you out. I started seeing that those big companies, they have a standard. Before you don't come to work, you involve HR that you won't be available today, at least a day before, except it's a deadly emergency. That way you see workers being serious and punctual, and whenever they want to resign, you still give what is it called again, notice. Now the company is doing very well for themselves, and if somebody doesn't want to work again, they're looking for a replacement immediately, and everything is working smoothly. You don't even get to know the company lost the staff. You don't even get to know each section or department of the company is all going well. The company is working flawlessly. It's because now they now have a consequence. If you do not give HR pure information, they could sue you that for the days you did not show up, the company made losses, and whether you like it or not, it's now you against the company, and you're going to pay them a whole lot of money in damages. They could sack you. You just choose not to come to work today. You're going to get the consequences of it, right? Now that is their standard, and it has a consequence that would occur if you do not follow the standard. Now, if you also get to see like a small average business that is probably that same standard do not come to work with other team, but then there is no consequence. So the lady just calls and tell madam, I'm sorry, I cannot make it to the madam shout at her. I go come out from a salary, and maybe sometimes at the end of the whole day, the staff comes back 2 days later, madam has forgotten what she did, and madam said, go even tell her, say, never eat, go buy food for streets now. And they come out right now and go one of my friend dedication. So, relax, blah, blah, blah. So in a nutshell, the madam didn't give her a query, or the query wasn't official, it has no consequence, and then that tenor just comes, and goes. So me, for instance, when I had my own issue with was not having a consequence, was while I was growing up, I discovered people were talking carefully to me. I had people insulting me on chats, people telling me how I am low, and funny enough, I was actually doing well for myself to an extent. So there I was wondering where the whole insult and people looking at me is coming from, not knowing that I had no standard and no consequence. So because a standard and a consequence helps you shield certain things from happening. There's a reason why you can't go to Sheraton, you can't go to Transcorp Hilton, you can't go to Eco Hotel Rental, and you see some loud boys making noise like they want to scatter glass, they want to fight, they want to choke bottle. Those things can't happen in Eco Hotel, right? Now you go to a small guest house around the neighborhood that has a room of 8k, 10k, you will see boys come in there, drink a bottle of stout or a bottle of beer, and after a few bottles they want to scatter around, they want to destroy people's property, they want to make noise. It's because Eco Hotel would actually screen the kind of people that would come with the price, with the aesthetic, with your requirements, with what they expect of you. They're already screaming those urchins away. Why the other place, the other small guest house where anything happens has no standard, and so anybody can walk in. Now back to how it happened to me years ago. So years ago, when I started chatting, like, if you follow up my WhatsApp status, now if you don't, I'm gonna have my number at the description. So when I actually started back then, I used to actually be very, very nice and rosy, right? I would let people call me all kinds of names, and people, like, at first it doesn't really start insultive, because you see people you start doing business with people with no manners, right? It's better you don't even come close to people with no manners, because once you start doing business with them, it's a whole different thing. It's not something you can easily bail out with. It's more like once you've taken the money from a tout into your hotel and the tout is making noise, you can't just inject him anyhow. So the best thing to do is to make sure those urchins don't even enter the hotel to lodge in the first place, not to talk of to start looking for a way to discharge them. So back then, when people chat with me, they could call me bro, they could call me guy, and they'll tell me, I had you offer the service, what do you offer? Now normally I'm a corporate person, and I'm an official person, and I would want to tell you, okay, I'm Mr. Daniel, please call me Mr. Daniel. And some would actually, okay, that was even when I started setting standard. Before I don't even have standard, I would just keep chatting with you. A few days into the chat, maybe we have a little altercation, maybe I wasn't available, I couldn't reply your message. You're not telling me how. Are you keeping me waiting? Are you stupid? I have other better things to do. Or they're not beginning to use one opportunity to insult me. And before I would say Jack and G, they're already making me feel bad for myself. They start afflicting me with their negativity or their toxic life. I don't want to go above 10 minutes. Okay, so fast forward, I became a new person that whenever people chat me up, I tell them, please do not call me bro, do not call me guy, Mr. Daniel. If you call me any of this after I've given you this warning, I block people for saying this, but this is the first time, so this is it. Keep business and keep business professional. Do not use informal words on me like bro, and head straight to addressing me as Mr. Daniel. Now, most of the people whom I've told these things, the one who will tell me how you're proud, you're arrogant, my friend, get out of bed, those ones, they end up going. But I can swear to you that every single person, if not every single person who addressed me as Mr. Daniel, ended up having a respectful business transaction with me. When I wasn't available to reply to their messages, when I came back there, they told me, Mr. Daniel, I'm here to get a response, and I apologize if I overstayed. And business is being done well. Now, if I had no standard of blocking people, I wouldn't have had that filtration. I'm supposed to make this episode hotter than it is, but I wouldn't want to go above 10 minutes. So the whole summary of the whole day is just make sure you have a standard in your life. And I make sure this standard comes with the consequences, because that's the only way people respect things. People would never respect decisions. People would never respect laws if there are no consequences. So make sure in your life, you want to live the life of the successful. Every successful person has consequences. Every successful person has a standard. So if you cannot conform to them, or if you do not meet up to their standard, or if you try to violate their standard, now as the consequences. In Nigeria, for instance, you can just simply walk up to the police station, tell them somebody got you angry, and they will point to the house. If they go there and the person is a poor man, they would arrest him. That's because the poor people have no standard, they have no consequences. Now, if you still carry police right now and tell police to go to a big man's house, they'll start talking about warrants, about do you have enough evidence to back up whatever claims you're making. Now, the poor man, they did no due diligence, they want to pick him up because he's poor, but the rich has always made something known. The rich has always proved that they have a standard, and there are consequences if you try to violate their standard. So picking them up from their house, spoiling their day, interrogating them will come with the lawsuits, and so everybody stays away from the rich. Now, if you want to be someone who has a rich mindset, it is not the money you have in your account, it's being able to live the life and the standards of the life, which is setting up a standard and having a consequence. On 6th of January, which is going to be tomorrow episode, I'll try to talk more about this. This is like 11 p.m. I had a very stressful day today, so I'm going to be stopping this video, making it short. See you next time.